The law offices of Harrington and Lowe smelled of lemon polish, old paper, and inherited grief. I, Cora, sat in a stiff leather chair, my black dress feeling like a weight. Across from me, my stepbrother, Marcus, adjusted his Italian suit cuff, a gesture of barely contained anticipation. His mother, Gloria, my father's second wife, sat beside him, a handkerchief dabbing at dry eyes. My father, Robert Vance, billionaire tech titan and distant patriarch, was gone, a sudden heart attack at his sailing club. We hadn't spoken in 3 years, not since I left the family corporation to teach literature at a public high school. He'd called it a pathetic waste of a first-class mind. The last thing he'd said to me was, "If you walk out that door, Cora, you are no daughter of mine." I guess he'd meant it. The family lawyer, Mr. Thorne, a man with the demeanor of a sorrowful bloodhound, cleared his throat and began reading the last will and testament of Robert Alastair Vance. It was a ruthless, meticulous document, as cold and logical as the man himself, bequests to museums, to his alma mater, to the sailing club, a trust for Gloria in gratitude for her companionship. Then the core of the estate. To my son, Marcus Vance, I leave the entirety of my controlling shares in Vance Technologies, my residential properties in New York, Aspen, and Saint-Tropez, and the role of Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board, effective immediately. Marcus let out a slow, controlled breath, a king receiving his crown. Gloria placed a proud hand on his arm. I felt nothing, just a hollow confirmation. Mr. Thorne's voice droned on. To my daughter, Corinne Elise Vance, I braced myself, a token, a charitable trust with my name on it, a final public lesson in obedience. To my daughter, Corinne Elise Vance, I leave the sum of $1 and the contents of the safety deposit box number 1147 at First Metropolitan Bank, which she may collect at her convenience. A stark, silent gasp went around the room, though no one made a sound. $1, the ultimate disinheritance, the final, brutal punctuation to our estrangement. Marcus had the decency to look down, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Gloria's sympathetic glance was a masterpiece of victorious pity. I didn't flinch. I had expected a wound, and he'd delivered it precisely. The numbness was a shield. Mr. Thorne finished the formalities. As we stood to leave, he approached me, his expression unreadable. "My condolences, Miss Vance. The information for the safety deposit box." He handed me a standard client envelope. As our fingers brushed, he pressed a second, smaller, folded slip of paper into my palm, his eyes holding mine for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. Once in the sterile silence of the parking garage, I leaned against my modest car, the roar of my own blood in my ears. I opened the official envelope, the key, the box number, bank details. Then, with trembling fingers, I unfolded the small, plain note. In tight, precise handwriting, it read, "Miss Vance, your father was a brilliant, complicated man. He built labyrinths to protect what he valued most. The will is a facade. Read the last page of the corporate charter documents inside the box, not the first, the very last. Do not share this, not with family, not with lawyers. Trust no one until you understand. A friend." My heart, which had been a block of ice, gave a single hard thump. A labyrinth, a facade. I drove to First Metropolitan Bank, not with hope, but with a fierce, burning curiosity. The cold disinheritance suddenly felt like a performance, and I had been cast in a role I didn't understand. The bank vault was a silent, chilled space.
The attendant led me to box 1147, inserted his key, then mine, and slid the long metal drawer out with a soft rumble before discreetly leaving. Inside wasn't what I expected. No jewelry, no stacks of bonds, just 3 items. A faded embroidered handkerchief that had belonged to my mother, who died when I was 10, a sealed, unmarked USB drive, and a thick, bound legal document titled Vance Technologies, Articles of Incorporation and Founding Charter, amended and restated. My mother's handkerchief. That was the first clue. This box wasn't just a legal repository. It was a message to me specifically. He knew I'd remember it. Ignoring the USB drive for the moment, I hefted the charter document. It was dense, legalese, hundreds of pages thick. According to Mr. Thorne's note, the truth was on the last page. I flipped to the very end, my fingers slipping on the thick paper. The last page wasn't about share distribution or board appointments. It was a single appended clause, written in plainer English than the rest, titled Article 99, the Sentinel Protocol. My eyes scanned the text, once, twice, my breath catching in my throat. With notwithstanding any other provision in this charter or any subsequent will or testament, effective upon the death of the founder, Robert A. Vance, the following shall become irrevocable law of the corporation. 1. The individual who inherits the title of CEO and controlling shares, the public successor, shall hold operational control for a period not to exceed 90 days from the date of inheritance. 2. True overriding control of the corporation, including the power to appoint or remove the CEO, approve mergers or sales, and access all strategic reserves, is vested in a separate, secret role, the Sentinel. The Sentinel shall be the individual who, within 30 days of the founder's death, presents both the founder's personal passkey, contained in Annex A, and correctly answers the security query posed by the founder's designated AI system, Argus, housed on a secured server separate from the corporate network. The query will be unique and personal. The identity of the Sentinel is to be revealed to no one. Their authority is absolute and anonymous. If no claimant fulfills the conditions within 30 days, all company assets will be liquidated and donated to the charitable trusts listed in Annex B. The public successor is to be kept unaware of the Sentinel's existence and authority. This duality is the founder's final mechanism to ensure the corporation's survival beyond personality or petty familial strife. I read it again, my mind reeling. Marcus was the public successor, a placeholder, a decoy king. I was meant to be the Sentinel, the secret sovereign. The passkey was likely on the USB drive. The security query would be from an AI named Argus. My father's last, most complex labyrinth was for me alone. But why? Why the brutal public disinheritance? Why not just tell me? Then it hit me. Trust no one. The cruelty of the will was my camouflage. It made me invisible, non-threatening to Marcus and Gloria. It made them dismiss me as a defeated dollar heir. They would be watching each other, battling for power, while I, the disowned daughter, moved unseen in the shadows. I took the handkerchief, the USB drive, and the charter. As I drove home, a storm of emotions warred inside me. Vindication, fury at the psychological game, and a crushing sense of loneliness. My father's last act was to drop me into a spy novel of his own creation. That night, on a clean, air-gapped laptop, I inserted the USB drive. It contained one file, keyalpha.pkg. I ran it. A command window flashed open, then a single line of text appeared. Initializing connection to Argus. Stand by for biometric verification. A camera light on my laptop glowed. It scanned my face. A moment later, text scrolled. Biometric match confirmed. Corrine Elise Vance. Welcome, Sentinel candidate. To assume authority, you must answer the foundational query. You have one attempt. Failure will permanently lock the Sentinel protocol and trigger the liquidation clause. My palms were slick. The cursor blinked. Query: what did you bury with her in the garden? The air left my lungs. The garden. My mother's garden. She loved roses. When she died, I was 12. Heartbroken and furious at the world, I'd taken my favorite thing, a gold locket with her picture, and buried it at the foot of her favorite white rosebush. I'd told no one, not my father, not a friend. It was a child's secret pact with a ghost. My father couldn't have known, unless he'd seen me. From his study window overlooking the garden, he'd seen my small, grieving figure, the flash of gold, the frantic digging. He'd seen it and said nothing. For 15 years he'd held that secret, and now he was using it as the final key to his kingdom. With trembling fingers, I typed, "A gold locket with her picture." The screen went black. Then a single elegant line appeared. "Authentication complete. Welcome, Sentinel. Argus is at your service. The real boardroom is now open." I sat in the dark of my small apartment, the glow of the screen illuminating my tears, not of sadness, but of a profound, overwhelming understanding. My father hadn't disowned me. He had, in his own twisted, brilliant, emotionally stunted way, entrusted me with everything.
The next 90 days were a silent war waged from my tiny apartment. Through Argus, I had a god's eye view of Vance Technologies. I saw Marcus's every move, his rash attempts to sell off undervalued R&D divisions, his cozy dinners with a rival corporation's CEO discussing a strategic merger, his quiet siphoning of funds into his own shell companies. He was stripping the carcass, just as my father must have feared. Gloria was no better, using her new influence to install her vapid friends on charitable boards funded by the company. I watched, I learned, and I intervened. Not directly, but through Argus. The AI, with my authorization, became a ghost in the machine. A critical vote from a mysterious, anonymous major shareholder would block Marcus's worst deals. Whistleblower packets, meticulously compiled, would land on the desks of ethical board members. Key resignations from Marcus's inner circle were encouraged by unexpected, lucrative job offers from a headhunter firm that somehow knew all their secrets. I was the unseen hand, correcting the course of the ship my brother was trying to steer onto the rocks. The tension peaked on day 89, one day before Marcus's provisional control would technically end, though he didn't know that clause existed. He called an emergency board meeting to push through the merger with the rival, Kronos Corp. It was a fire sale, a betrayal of my father's life's work. I knew it was time. The Sentinel could no longer be a ghost. She had to become a voice. Using Argus, I patched myself, voice digitally altered but unmistakably female, into the secure boardroom audio system. As Marcus began his presentation, I spoke. "This meeting is adjourned." The boardroom, visible through a secure camera feed, fell into stunned silence. Marcus looked around, furious. "Who said that? This is a secured line." "My name is irrelevant," I said, my altered voice calm, steely. "My authority is absolute. Under Article 99 of the Corporate Charter, the Sentinel Protocol is now in effect. Marcus Vance's authority as CEO is hereby terminated effective immediately. The proposed merger with Kronos is nullified. All transactions he has authorized in the last 90 days are under review." Chaos erupted. Marcus screamed about hacking, about fraud, but the board's chairman, an old, loyal friend of my father's named Arthur Shaw, had gone pale. He knew. My father must have hinted at the protocol to him alone. "The protocol," Arthur whispered, then spoke into the microphone. "The Sentinel's authority is legitimate. It's in the charter, gentlemen. A failsafe Robert built. We are required to comply." The rest was a legal and corporate blur. Marcus was escorted out,
The board, under Arthur's guidance and my whispered directives via Argus, began the work of stabilization. A week later, a package arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a simple white card and a new, unmarked key. The card read, "The Sentinel's seat is not in the shadows. It's at the head of the table. Your father's true office. 12th floor, West Wing. He always hoped you'd find it. A friend, Mr. Thorne." I used my keycard, now programmed by Argus with ultimate access, and entered the Vance Technologies tower for the first time in years. I took the private elevator to the 12th floor, a wing always marked Utilities Restricted. The door opened not onto a mechanical room, but into a breathtaking, sun-drenched office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. One wall was a living library of great literature, my passion. In the center of the desk sat my mother's embroidered handkerchief, framed, and a note in my father's own, now fragile handwriting. "Cora, if you are here, you solved it. You saw past the cruelty to the code. I could not give you the company publicly. It would have made you a target for every shark in the water, including those within our family. I had to make you disappear so you could become powerful. I failed you as a father in so many ways. I spoke the language of leverage and logic, not love. This was the only language I had left to say, I see you, I trust you. You were always my true successor. The company is yours. Build something that lasts, and perhaps read a poem now and then. For you, for her. With all my complicated heart, Father." I finally let the tears fall, hot and unstopped. They were for the years lost, for the love expressed too late in riddles, for the overwhelming weight and gift of it all. I didn't become the flashy CEO. I appointed Arthur Shaw as the public-facing CEO, a steady hand. I remained the sentinel, the anonymous, guiding force. But from my father's secret office, I steered the company towards ethical tech, funded literacy programs, and protected the innovative heart of his work. Marcus and Gloria, after a failed and embarrassing legal challenge, faded into obscurity with their substantial but no longer controlling trust funds. Sometimes, at dusk, I sit in my father's chair, look at my mother's handkerchief, and watch the city lights come on. I am an heir, a secret keeper, a teacher turned sovereign. My inheritance wasn't a fortune, it was a fortress. And my father, in the end, had given me the only key that mattered, the one that proved he knew who I was all along.